Well, hello, readers. I love when I just get into a book and I'm like, no, I don't want to do my work because I want to keep reading this book. Or no, I don't I don't want to do anything except be in the book. That is how I've been lately, and I'm loving this new book. But first, let me introduce you to the author, who's my friend Emily. So welcome, Emily, and why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So you'll notice on the cover it does say E.A. Hendrix of this book. But I write under multiple different names, so it's probably easier just to go by Emily at this point. E.A. is a little awkward.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am the author of Suspended in the Stars. It's a young adult science fantasy. So I like to dream up imaginative things. I love being on different planets, whatever possible. And I am also a book cover designer, a podcaster, and a photographer. So I do a lot of creative things in a lot of different areas. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you, but you forgot to mention the awards. So
Oh, well, you know.
let's talk about some awards for this book.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I have them up on my shelf. You can't really see them here, but I did win the Realm Awards for debut and young adult novel, which was really exciting. And one of the things that I think was the biggest treat for me is that they read your first line when you win the award, and so everybody's waiting with bated breath, and they start off with the first line, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's my line!" So it was just really cool to hear, and actually the first part of it too. I might as well just read it because
Yes,
and I
yes.
have to read it because I can't do it from memory. But it says, "I'm falling through the air. Darkness surrounds me with a single spotlight focused on my descent. Above me, the infinity of the galaxy. Below me, blackness. The crowd holds a collective breath in anticipation as I seem to hang there." And I loved it because the second time that Scott read it out, everybody was like, and they gasped to
They
go
knew.
along with it. I was like, this is so cool.
I love it. Oh, and so I could see why it won these awards.
Thank
First of all, well, and it didn't win on cover design, but this cover is amazing. I
Thank
love
you
the
very
cover.
much.
But and I was just from the beginning, the first time I saw it, I'm like, this looks awesome. This looks awesome. And so, interviewing people is a great excuse to like read when
Mhm.
yep, mom, I need this. No, I have to read. I have to read.
Right.
Sorry.
It's part of my job.
But yes, okay. We have to talk about this is a
Mhm.
circus
Mhm.
in outer space
Mhm.
moving through the galaxies, and you have a very beautiful um not a trapeze. What is she? What is she?
Yeah, kinda like a
Kind of like
trapeze
trapeze.
artist.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that works.
And
Like
then
futuristic.
futuristic, yes, and then
Yeah.
a very handsome person,
Mhm.
which we don't know the full reasons why he was escaping
Mhm.
the planet he's on, and she has to help them. And I think I'm not telling too much
Yeah, I think
that
that's good, yeah.
they do. Can I tell more of what
Yeah,
they
so the
say?
hard part is that, people ask about it, and I'm like, "Well, some of it is just, like, spoilery," but yeah, I mean, I like to say that they team up to save the galaxy, and that's just
Okay,
a
okay, okay.
blanket statement for the
There we
rest of the book.
go.
It is pretty vague, but, I mean, there's, like, the no spice romance that I love, and they will definitely, find themselves in action and adventure. I like a fast-paced book to read, and so I try to
Mhm.
write them fast-paced as well, so yeah. It's
Okay,
hard to go without spoilers.
so many fun things. Yeah, I know. So I was like, I want to say more, but I will not say that right now. Okay, the fun thing is, right from the beginning, like she's a little spitfire, like she has a little attitude, and then he is like, I'll just say, she thinks she's in danger, and
Mhm.
then he has this like gentle side that he's like letting through, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So right away, their characters, I'm like, I love these people, and I want to see them in a movie. Like,
Mhm.
can we please just make a movie of this? It would
I would love
be
that.
amazing. It would
Yeah.
be amazing because you can just picture, and then there's
Mhm.
other characters, like people you would imagine in a circus, but they're just
Mhm.
like hurling through space and like
Mhm.
going through galaxies. So I'm trying to figure out how much to say. Let's just
Yeah.
go to a different question about how did you get the idea for this book?
And it's so funny because I do pitch it as like the greatest showman meets Star Wars. So if you've seen the movie and like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
you get that circus and space idea. But it wasn't necessarily born of that movie. I just remember very vividly I was at the time living in Ohio, and I love to take long walks. I'm definitely a a walk plotter thinker.
Mm.
So I was out in the middle of nature and I had this, it's not the book, but I had this idea that, what would happen if someone's kind of like a spy in a circus or something? And so then from there, it spiraled out into what the book actually is. And then I was like, well, what happens if it's in space? Because I very clearly see that first scene where she is like, it looks like she's suspended in the air, suspended in the stars.
Mhm.
And so after that kind of came to me, the rest of it took on a life of its own. I like to tell people that I actually wrote it thinking it was going to be a prequel to a series. And then by the time I was already halfway in, I was like, nope, these are the characters. Like these are, at least for the first book, these are the
Yeah.
people whose story I need to tell. It doesn't get much bigger than this. So I
Yeah,
decided, well,
absolutely.
this is book one. So
Yeah. And so I don't like reading back cover copies.
Mm,
I don't like reading all this because I just want to be in the book
same.
and just like discover it. I don't want to like
Hmm.
because then in my mind I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is gonna happen and this is
Yeah. I
gonna
try to fit
happen.
things
Like
in.
yeah.
Yep.
So I literally I'm like I start listening because I bought the Audible version, even though I
Mm,
have the paperback. I bought the
thank you.
Audible and I'm listening. Yeah, and I'm listening and I'm like, wait, is she like, is it like a trapeze artist? I'm like, is this a circus? A circus in space? And literally, I got so excited, like, because I, especially since I started reading a lot of Realm Makers books, you read a
Mhm,
lot of different genres and different
mhm.
things, like different genres within the speculative fiction.
Right.
I'm like, I don't think I know of another circus in space book. I mean, they may be
Yeah.
out there, but it's
Yeah.
so fresh and it makes sense
Mm.
and it's so cool and it's a great reason for visiting all these different locations because they're
Mhm.
going to do shows. I'm like, oh, this is genius. This is
Well,
genius.
this is like a long time ago, but I absolutely love The Lady and the Lionheart by Joanne Bischoff.
Oh,
Like
yeah, yeah.
very different. I mean, obviously we're talking like historical fiction, romance, but I've always loved any kind of story then that kind of circulates around the circus. I've been to
Mhm.
several myself, and I know like nowadays it's kind of like, oh, the animals and all that, but as long as they're taken care of well, like they love to perform, and that to me is just it's a very unique type of family that you find
Mhm.
within any kind of circus, at least any stories that I see about the circus. I don't know because I've not been in the circus myself, but I like to guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, well, again, that's probably spoilers, so I won't say anything, but I do love pulling out like kind of those different characters that have unique abilities, because what better place
Mhm.
than for them to be in the circus and doing what they're good at. So
Yeah. So I remember, so we went and watched The Greatest Showman, and I hadn't seen like a trailer.
mm,
My husband's like, I think there's this movie that we'd like, and so we went and watched it, and we were like, I think it was like opening weekend,
mhm.
and all of us kids from the ages probably like 30, all, and we were just like they're like this, like,
Yeah.
and that's just kind of same the feeling that I had
Mhm,
as I'm reading your book. I'm like, oh, this is so
mhm.
cool. Oh, wow. Okay. I really like these characters. Oh, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the same
Mhm,
stuff as like super cool feeling. And you just, I think the circus thing growing up, like it's the bigger than life magical, but
mhm.
then there's real people behind it with real
Yeah.
issues and then secrets and all the things.
Mhm,
So,
mhm. Absolutely. A great place for those secrets, to be hidden as well, so
yes. Okay. So you
Mhm,
mentioned book one. This is book
mhm.
one, you said.
Yes.
So are you
Yes.
working on book two? Is there plans?
I have book 2
Wait,
here. Yeah, it
what?
comes so book 2 comes out November 12th, actually. So I did Kickstarters for both of these.
Okay.
And I will kickstart book 3 as well, which it has a title. It's Rising from the Galaxy. I'm very excited. Haven't designed the cover yet, so I don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so book 2 actually, I kickstarted it in March or April of this year, and then I like to kickstart in the spring and then release in the fall. So we're very close to the release of book 2, which is fun because you will while I don't love a cliffhanger, I will say the ending of book 1 makes you want to read book 2 very quickly.
Mhm.
So, and same thing with book 3, but I try to be nice. I try to wrap up a lot of it because I personally prefer that, but then you've
Yeah.
got to have something to pull you into the next book. So, yeah, so
Exactly.
that actually follows. I did something a little unique, at least I think it's unique, in that book 1 is like focused on the main characters there. Book 2 is actually two different characters and their love story and how it fits into it. Same thing with
Mhm.
book 3, but you do get the same perspectives from a couple of people in book 1 as well. So, I kind of went from 2 points of view to 5 points of view to however many we will not know until the last book is written points of view, but, I like that because you can kind of see a different aspect of the world, especially through the lenses of from who I heard from readers was a favorite character later on in book 1, he becomes the main character of book 2. So, I love that. I
Okay,
love
I
little
haven't
little
got there
things.
yet. I haven't got
I
there
won't
yet,
say
so
anything.
I'm super excited.
Mhm.
And so explain Kickstarter so people might
Yeah,
be saying, "I don't know what you're
yeah.
talking about." And I'm pretty sure I contributed to book 1
Yeah,
Kickstarter.
I think you
Yeah.
did, or at least I think you did. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
you've backed at least one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like to explain it in the sense of it's crowdfunding. And a lot of the times people will use this for products. So maybe you have a great idea for like I saw this one product where it was like a because I have a cat, little cat bed that attaches to your desk so she doesn't have to like sleep on your desk, something like that. So my product was my book, basically. So I brought
Mhm.
this to my crowd of readers as well as the crowd of readers that are on Kickstarter, and you're able to pledge at whatever level you want. So whether it's a digital backing, audiobook, paperback, hardcover, and you get limited edition hardcovers, which you will not be able to purchase outside of Kickstarter at this point. So it's kind of an incentive in that way to back the project, help me get it give it legs, I guess.
Mhm.
But then also because I like to design things, there's a lot of stretch goals that include art that I've created or art that I've hired out to be created. So you get like a lot of extra goodies. Just,
Mhm.
it's not just the paperback, it's like so much more than that. So that's kind of a very brief overview of Kickstarter.
I love that so much. And what I love is that you have people that are looking for this type of book. And it's just like you're building, like this is your ideal reader. And you're like,
Mhm,
I have something for you. And they're like,
mhm.
yes, we want this. And so then this whole crowd comes around where like 20 years ago when I first started, well, I guess 30 years ago, I'm aging myself, but I started in Christian publishing. When you, if you wanted to self-publish your book, you just like had to take $20,000 and go to your local printer,
Mhm.
and your garage is full of books, and then you have to figure out what to do with them. And
Yeah.
now just the connection and the
Mhm,
community that come with these types of projects, it's like readers feel invested. So not
mhm,
only do you have your initial readers that get the book, but then they're like, I'm part of this. Like it makes them gives them ownership of it. And I think that's an awesome thing.
mhm.
And I just like, you got funded really quickly. Like the first
Yeah.
goal was it
It was
within
yeah,
a
we
couple of
probably
days?
surpassed what I initially thought in the first few
Yes.
days. I was like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
Which is really it's really very humbling and very exciting to see the support, especially and this might be jumping ahead to one of your questions later, but I I had pitched out Suspended in the Stars to like General Market and some Christian market publishers as well. And it just didn't get traction. And I totally get why. It is
Hmm.
unique. It's not something that is an easy space on a shelf because science fiction and fantasy together, it's like either one or the other usually. So I knew that it was a risk and I kind of expected those no's. And so I took it myself and I was like, well, let's put this out, and then to see it not only get the traction on Kickstarter, but then to win those awards, like it was just hugely humbling and
Hmm.
awesome just
Yeah.
to see that support. So kind of, the Lord was like affirming, yes, you did what I wanted you to do for this book and this series. So that's been really
Yeah.
cool to see.
And I think one cool thing is that we have these tools and resources like crowdfunding
Mm.
or designing, like
Oh
the
yeah.
tools and the being able to put stuff out on social media and connect readers. I mean, there's so many tools that we have now that we didn't have 20 and 30 years
Yeah.
ago, but also the traditional publishing houses, they have their authors that write every
Mhm.
year or every couple of years, and those spots are full. And
Mhm.
so it's not even, and I tell this because I speak at writers conference all the time, it's not that your book isn't great,
Right.
because I'm loving this. Like, this is
Thank you.
one of my top reads of the year so far. I mean,
Thank
and
you.
I know it's just excited, um, but it's not like you don't have an amazing book, but they only have so many slots,
Yeah.
and they have
Oh
their
yeah.
authors that have been publishing with them for years, and the readers are
Mhm.
used to that, and they're used to those names. Again,
Mhm.
the genre, this is a newer genre, especially in the
Mhm.
Christian market, and so I love that there are these ways that we could just get our books out there and
Mhm.
reach the people who want them, love them,
Mhm.
and get excited about the next one? What's the next
Oh,
one? What's
yeah.
the next one?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I will say, like, I'm uniquely suited to it just because I do design a lot of covers and I work with,
Mhm.
like, larger press as well. So, I've been through that, "Oh, I've gotta submit my files because I did a print run for each of these." So, I feel like I've kind of run the gamut of, like, being a publisher now.
Yes.
And so I've learned a lot of things, but that has only, helped me, I think. It's neat to see, like, it really feels like a product that I've created out of, like,
Mhm.
blood, sweat, and tears in a good way.
Yeah,
Like, to hold it
and
in my hands, I'm like, "Yay." That
and then
type
the
of thing.
first one, like, yeah, once you have the first one, then you know the
Yeah.
process or
Mhm.
maybe things that you would do differently,
Yeah,
and I think and
absolutely.
all those tools in your tool belt are just gonna help you in future projects, or
Mhm.
maybe you will become a publisher, I don't know.
Yeah, who
Maybe we'll
knows?
see. Who knows? I mean, you can design the covers, you could write the
Yeah.
words, you could
I
all
know.
the things, and you have designed some covers for some of my books too.
I have, which is so
And they're
fun.
beautiful. Yeah, and they're
Thank you.
beautiful, and I love them. And so, yeah, I love that whatever talents and gifts that we have. Okay, so I wanna
Mhm.
talk about that for a little bit because I
Mhm.
think sometimes when we face opposition, which, is just it's just not the right thing for the right time at the right place.
Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
like we often see it as like closed doors,
Oh, yeah.
um, but it really takes confidence and it takes like knowing that God has called us to something to
Mhm.
continue to take those steps forward and not feeling defeated. So how do you do that? How did you do that in life? Because I think there's so many
Yeah.
people like they get a no or this isn't going to work for us and they just
Mhm.
like I'm done.
Yeah.
So how do you keep pressing forward?
Well, I will say, and I get a little goosebumps thinking about this actually, because man, this was back. I lived in Washington, D.C. for a couple of years, several years ago. And I remember very specifically, like, there's just times when, the Lord just lays something on your heart. And at that point, I had in my career, at least my writing career, I had been pursuing romantic suspense, which I still write in and I still enjoy. But I spent a lot of my time volunteering with youth groups and spending a lot of time with teens. And I just had this heart to be in the general market, but be the Christian behind the book. And obviously, never compromising my own beliefs in what I
Mhm.
write, but writing it a little more broadly where anybody could pick it up and enjoy it. And so, in knowing that very specific purpose that I felt like God had given me, well, a no is not gonna stop me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like I have like, God is on my side in that sense, and so, I do talk a lot too on my Instagram page about, like, perseverance, especially as
Mhm.
writers, because it is such a challenging like, industry. There are a lot of ups and downs, and just because you get a traditional contract doesn't mean you're guaranteed another one, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, stepping into whether it was going to be indie or whether it was going to be traditional, I was just going to go ahead and continue to move forward in it and not maybe think ahead too much. So when things were a no at that point, generally speaking, I was like,
Right.
okay, well, maybe there's another direction I should take. And actually, I think in the midst of that, I got a couple of contracts of write for hire for Cozy Mystery. And I think, got my contract with Sunrise during that time. And
Okay, yeah.
then put out Suspended in the Stars. So, it's like it's an up and down here and there. But yeah, I think it was just holding on to what I felt like the Lord had very specifically given me to do with my career and just following in those steps and not letting I think the I don't even know. It's just like kind of the discouragement that comes along with getting a no, not letting it
Mhm.
derail me, but instead letting me like turn back to him and say, "Okay, check in. Is this a door I need to keep pushing on or is it closed? Like where are we at in that?" And he's so faithful and he led me exactly where I needed to go.
Yeah, I love it. And when we have that confidence that, well, you're in this, so this is not the direction. So I guess where are we going next, Lord? I like
Mhm.
the people will come that we need to hear the message
Mhm.
from, or the community, or like there's so many people, at least in my life, that have like, oh, maybe this, or just you hear
Mhm.
things. It's just like God will direct you, and sometimes it
Mhm.
is not the way that you
Yeah.
think, but it's
True.
it's like he has wonderful plans, and it comes to like I just remember one time in my writing career, like kneeling with open hands, like
Mhm.
relinquishing wherever this goes. If it goes nowhere, like it's yours.
Mhm.
And he just does stuff with it. But I think when we're fighting and pushing and getting upset, and it's not
Yeah.
gonna help things. And so
Right.
I
Right.
love that, this Kickstarter's done amazing. It's a
Mhm.
won awards, and I'm sure during dark moments you couldn't have envisioned this,
Right.
but
Couldn't have. No
yeah,
way. Well, and I actually had one of those kind of full circle moments too. I think it was last weekend. I was at the Louisville Festival, and I had like always wanted to do like, oh, these like book festivals, how fun would that be? And it was a total blast. But I kind of had this moment where I was talking with a lot of the authors that were there, and a lot of them were indie authors too. And I made some great like new friends, and just thinking like, wow, maybe in my mind, I probably thought, oh, my book is going to get me places or whatever. At least that's what the hope is. But
yeah.
then being in it and realizing, oh, it was just me. I was the one who needed to be there. I needed to meet these
Mhm.
people. I needed to be helpful. I needed to be an image bearer of Christ in those circumstances, and just like, be Jesus to people everywhere. So,
Yeah,
and like my book is kind of letting me do that in not the way that I thought, but in a better way, right? So that was just like really, really cool to see what God is doing, and just saying like, hey, I'm just continuing to affirm like where you're at and just keep going.
yeah. Well, another thing that you said that I really loved is that, like, our story, like, general market, it's like we're clean, we have something that we can give teens,
Mhm.
and we don't have to hit them over the head with, like, the sermon in the middle of the book, but the point of view of the author in relation to God, in relation to the universe. I mean,
Mhm.
everything will come across in our words.
Mhm.
And, you know, I, as a mom of 10 children who, like, we'd go to the library and they'd have books. I'm like, I do the open test. Nope,
Yep.
you can't read this one.
Yeah.
Nope, you can't read this one. And they just want
Mhm.
good stuff. In fact, one of
Yeah.
my daughters, I was just talking to her. She's in Poland right now, so I'm gonna have to buy her the ebook version. But she's like, I
Oh,
need a
yeah.
book to read. I'm like, I know what to give her now. She's gonna love it. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how we think it's like maybe less, or some people
Mhm.
might say like, "Oh, you're writing for teens." Oh no,
Mhm.
like they have to be so well written. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
they
yeah.
will not keep reading if it is not totally engaging and they're falling in
Mm.
love with the characters. So they're a very discriminating audience,
Mhm.
and but they're also, when they love an author, they love an author. Like it's just an amazing place to be.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I got to meet, I feel like, some of my ideal readers at that festival, and just thinking like, how cool that I have a book that I can now give them, when before you're like, well, I'm working on it or whatever. It's a
Mhm.
very exciting place to be, especially with like book two coming out, and everything is just like, oh, I'm going to have more for you to read. And it just like knowing the parents don't have to worry, I
Mhm.
do say it's like 13 plus, and it depends on where your teen is at, just because of the romance is a main part of it, but it's always going to be sweet and clean. Like, I don't go anywhere that I wouldn't be okay with a teen reading type of
Exactly.
thing. But
Yeah, and, like,
yeah, just
even when they
having
were,
that.
like, climbing the ladder and she's above him with the dress and
Yeah.
he, like, glances up like, "Oh, I can't look up there."
Don't look at
I'm like,
it.
"I'm so proud of you." Like, that kind of stuff. It's like, "Aw."
Right, right. And
And that's yeah.
I totally believe in like like heroes that you can cheer for, heroes and
Mhm.
heroines, of course. I just had a conversation on my threads with people, and just talking about, I don't really love this push that we have in the market for morally great characters, because I really want, and
Mhm.
not to say that a character can't be flawed and can't learn. I love
Mhm.
that. But to me, I want someone who I can root for. And I write cinnamon roll characters, especially guys. Like Renner is a total cinnamon roll, or we could call him a muffin. But
Yeah.
he is super sweet. And even my characters who might be a little harder, a little broodier, they still have that heart of gold. Because that's what I want. I mean, I'm blessed to have married a man that's like that. And I
Mhm.
want teens to see like, this is what we should be aspiring to, not someone who's like walking a very murky line. Like, no, no, I want you to, really know why he's a good guy type of thing. So,
Yeah, that's so good, and that's what parents want our kids to be reading.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the type
encouraging.
of role models. Yes, the role models, and then they could see like, "Oh, this is how someone should be treated. This is how someone should
Mhm.
act,"
Yes, yes.
which is so great because there's not a lot out there that gives them,
No,
that. And so
no.
I love that there's more authors writing for teens in
Mhm.
the Christian market, or with a Christian worldview, I should say.
Mhm.
It's
Absolutely.
very encouraging, as a mom. They can say, yes, you can read this book and
Yeah,
you'll love it.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So you have book 3. Is it done? Where are you in the
Oh,
process?
no, it is in the mental planning stages. I have been really, really busy with my design work this year, probably too busy. So I'm hoping to actually, I'm not really doing NaNoWriMo, but I'm calling it Write More November. So it's
Okay.
Rimo No.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I just want to try to see what I can get done in the month of November. I kind of try to balance writing in the morning, designing in the afternoon, and we'll see where it lands. I'm a pretty fast writer, so
Okay.
I would say I see the first third of the book. I pretty much know the ending. Not really sure it's going to happen. I do know it's going to happen, but I don't know how it's all going to fit together because I've got people in like 3 different parts of the galaxy that I'm going to have to bring all together. So it'll be probably a pretty longer book, but I'm going to try to keep it not too long.
Oh, I love that. But I think, I mean, that's the fun of being a writer, that we get to discover the story.
Yes.
Discover it
Yes.
as we're going along. You're like, I didn't know that was going to happen, and then you get to then you're
I
like,
know.
how am I going to fix this? I've got them in all kinds of trouble now. How am I going to fix it?
I like to plot, but then sometimes you get to a point where you're just like, well, this is not what they want to do. So I have to just let them do their thing.
Yeah, exactly. And people are like, what? You're talking about imaginary people? I'm like,
Mhm.
yes, they do take over. They do
Mhm.
take over and do the things they want to do. Okay, so do you want to mention some of your other books?
Sure.
Love to hear.
If you like romantic suspense, I have Expired Promise out with Lisa Phillips from Sunrise Publishing. My 2 cozy mysteries, I'm not quite sure when they're coming out. They were Rent
Okay.
for Hire, but they'll be out sometime. It's with Annie's Fiction.
Yeah.
And then I do have another pen name that I just write sweet romance in. I just had a book release October 15th. Yeah. It's called Made at Christmas. It like made as in
Oh.
like a maid, and it's a
Uh-huh.
kind of my play on Made in Manhattan meets Safe Haven by Nicholas Sparks, but more like the movie. So there's a touch of tension in it, like a little suspense, but not very much. Just a Hallmark Christmas movie in a book form at the heart of it, with a bit of suspense. So I have a whole other Christmas series that's out as well, but lots of Christmas books because I love Hallmark Christmas. And
Yes.
actually, my first one I wrote as a gift to my dad because we watched them together over the holidays. So that to me is really special. So if you like any of that, you can find it all somewhere online for me.
Yeah.
I'm under
Well,
like 5 different
we will
names.
put the links, whatever links, Emily, that you want us to put
That's
in the
perfect.
show
That's
notes, we
perfect.
will put that. Okay, the last question that I always love to
Mhm.
ask is, what is a Christian novel that you love? It could be something you've read recently, it could be an all-time favorite. Readers love to hear what writers are reading.
Ooh, it's so tough. I'm gonna give you 2 just because there's like a current and then there's a all-time. I absolutely love all-time Francine Rivers' Mark of the Lion series,
Mhm.
especially the first 2 books.
My
All-time,
all-time
hands
favorite,
down,
all-time favorite, yep.
so fantastic. The romance is amazing. The message is amazing. Oh, I love it. But very recently, let's see if I can remember the title. I just finished an audiobook version, like an advanced version, an arc. There we go. Of I Think I Was Murdered by Colleen Coble and Rick Acker, and it was fantastic. So I
Wow.
read their other one too, which I can't remember the title of. It's the first of their other series, but this one was kind of like I think it's maybe a one-off that maybe they're just like slipping in there. It was so good, very unique. It's got like an AI component to it where I think this is part of the back cover, so I'm not spoiling anything, but the main character, the woman whose name I can't remember, but her husband has passed away and she uses this chat bot to talk with him. And that turns out where
Wow.
he thinks that, I mean, as the title suggests, that he was murdered. And so she kind of goes through this whole thing. There's a romance. Oh, it was so well done. I love Colleen and Rick. I got to do
Yep.
their headshots. So it was really fun to now read the books that they're doing with those headshots in a sense. So it's
I
really
love it.
fantastic. I would add it
Yeah.
to your list.
Absolutely, and I love that we get those glimpses of books ahead of time, and yeah, yeah, and I'll be like, "Oh, I love that book," and they're like, "It just released." I'm like, "I know, I read it 3 months ago."
I know, right?
It's so
Absolutely.
fun. Well, Emily, thanks for being here. We will make sure and get everything in the show notes, but is there one general place where people can go to look for, your books?
Yeah, you can search out EAH Creative. That literally has like pretty much all of my creative things on it, but there's links on there to my other website for like my other books and everything. But that's kind of like my main young adult science fantasy hub, I guess you could say.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.